Good evening. I'm Craig Farrell. I'm the Executive Director of the West Bend Area Chamber of Commerce, and I'd like to welcome our candidates and our viewers to our candidate forum. As Washington County's largest business organization with over 500 members, our mission is to support, strengthen, and certainly to grow our members and our community. This is our 109th anniversary as a chamber, so we've been around for a very long time. We welcome and encourage local business owners to join our association. We continue to offer programs like this, and certainly we consider this to be our public duty. We ask residents to frequent businesses that are chamber members, so we would appreciate if you remember that when you're out shopping. We would also like to alert visitors that, viewers, that our chamber is hosting a trip to Egypt this November, including a 4-day cruise on the Nile. It is open to the public, so if anyone in the audience would like to take that trip, please give me a call at the chamber office, and we can provide more information. For the past 25 years, the chamber has been providing this candidate forum. It's a community leadership role, and we conduct this in an unbiased basis. It is intended to provide our voters with opportunity to meet the candidates and to have a better understanding of their positions, and also to allow them to answer questions of general voter interest. Our objective is to send informed voters to the polls on April 6th. Tonight's forum will be in the following format. Each candidate will be offered an opportunity to make a 2-minute opening statements. Then they will be asked questions on topics of general voter interest. The candidates have 2 minutes to respond. Participants will respond in alternating fashion for each question. Our forum will conclude with candidates giving a 2-minute summarization on what they've heard and on their positions. And they can do that throughout the last 2 minutes of their time. The chamber goal is to provide a professional, courteous, unbiased environment for the candidates to share their views with the voters of West Bend. We hope that you each will respect the time constraints and stop when directed to do so. I'd like to welcome the 3 candidates running for the 2 seats on school board, Jody Jeenan, Kurt Rebholz, and Christopher Swigert. Opening remarks, we're going to start with Judy. You need to push the button. Right again.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Jody Geenan, candidate for the West Bend School District School Board. I would like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this annual event and everyone who is taking the time to watch. I have resided in West Bend for 25 years, been married to Jim for 32, and together we're blessed to raise 3 daughters who attended the West Bend High School. In the past, I was a legal assistant, an office manager, and a certified dental assistant. Currently, I enjoy helping out at Riverside Brewery and caring for some wonderful kiddos during the week, which keeps me connected to what's happening in the schools. I serve on the Board of Review for the City of West Bend regarding property assessments and have served as a Girl Scout Service Area Coordinator for all of West Bend and Jackson. You may have also seen me working with disabled adults and children through the Journey program, teaching religious ed for grades K-5 through 12 for church, chaperoning youth outreach mission trips, volunteering for the homeless through Family Promise, co-directing an annual blood drive with my husband for Versati Blood Center of Wisconsin, being the past volunteer coordinator for the West Bend High School Dolphins team, and judging and coaching for West Bend High School and Middle School forensics and debate teams. Although I never served on the school board, this is my second run against the incumbents. I ran last winter after members of the community suggested there was a need for a person with strong conservative values. Because I am close to securing enough votes, combined with my desire to serve the community in this capacity, especially because of my love for serving students of all ages, I decided to give it another try. My main goals are to be independent, transparent, and accountable to all stakeholders in the community, including students, parents, teachers, taxpayers, and businesses, as well as the administration, instead of being an extension of the administration, passing everything it presents 7-0 regardless of community or teacher input, as the current school board seems to do. I would like students to be taught a content-rich, truth and fact-based, balanced education, and would like to work within our budget, avoiding anything that would increase taxes such as referendums. We can even manage sensible facility changes, as our task force proved. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. Kurt.
Yes, thank you, Craig, and the 500 members of the Chamber. Bay Market Force is one of them, and I will say, buy local. We do it. We all should do it to promote a strong community. I'm a current member of the West Bend School Board, the treasurer on the board. Completing my 3-year term, I'm running for re-election. The West Bend School District is no doubtedly on an upward trend. There's a lot of positive momentum going. Why? We have hired Jen Wimmer. She's a rock star superintendent. In the middle of COVID, we've kept our schools open. She works sun up till sundown, teaching our kids. She's even filled in the classroom when we needed a sub. She's talked to any member in the community that has an idea or has a question. She is truly, I think, the best superintendent in the state, and we were able to attract her from having a conservative board and a conservative community. We've kept schools open, as I said. We have 3 state champions in the last month: Connor Marisola, diver Jan Lancer, Ben Boast. We've added STEM, AP, CT courses over the last 3 years. I'll talk about those more. All district staff, admin, teachers are working together, as I said, to keep schools open. We're doing all of this while balancing the budgets, no tax increases the last 3 years. That means the mill rate has been flat the last 3 years, not like the city council who has increased taxes. I know at least the last year, maybe 2 years. We've cut $1.3 million in administrative expenses, and we've lowered our debt by over $10 million in the last 3 years. We're on an upward trend. I'll introduce myself a little further as the Chamber Forum goes on, but I've been a resident of West Bend for 27 years and look forward to serving you another 3 years.
Thank you, Kurt. Chris.
Good evening. Craig, thank you very much. I want to start by expressing my thanks for hosting this forum. Thanks to you and to the Chamber members as well. Just as a matter of introduction, my name is Chris Swigert. I'm currently a member of the West Bend School Board, and I am currently serving as board president, and I'm running for my 2nd term. By day, I serve as vice president and chief legal officer of West Bend Mutual Insurance Company. I've worked there for 26 years. By background, I'm a certified public accountant and an attorney, and have found that those skills come in very handy when you sit on the school board. So many people ask, why did you run for school board? Why are you running for school board again? And if really I had to sum it up, it's because we have an amazing school district, and the opportunities that are in front of us are ones we need to capitalize on. And I want to do my best to help with that wherever I can. And as I've served on the board for the past 3 years, that's really given me some great experience to see things on the inside. Now, over the past year, our board had to place its primary focus on our ability to remain open for both in-person classes and for virtual schooling. And what I'm proud of is that we gave our parents choice as to how best to educate their children during these very unusual times. We still have work to do on that front, but I'm proud that our entire community, our parents and our teachers, administrators, staff, all work together to keep the schools open. You're the ones who made it happen. And so, like any other district, we have challenges in front of us, and I'm sure Craig will be talking about some of those tonight. That's at least my guess, and look forward to that dialogue. Thank you again.
Thank you. Okay, Kurt, you're going to get our very first question. What motivates you to want to be a school board member or to continue to serve on the school board?
Yeah, great question, Craig. What motivates me is I moved here 27 years ago for the West Bend community. It's a safe community. It offers great environments for a family. Jenny, my wife, worked at Amity Leather at the time, a strong manufacturing company. We raised 2 children. They went from K to 12 in the West Bend School District, received a wonderful education. And I was fortunate to open a business 12 years ago in the community, so I know what it's like to hire from the community and even employ 12 interns from the high school who received, again, a wonderful education. A little bit why I'm running to answer is I want to give back to the community that's given me so much. I love West Bend, love living here. I feel I bring some credentials of being a business owner in the community, balancing my own budgets at my company and helping balance the budgets here at the school district. A little bit about more of, again, why I'm running is I'm a fiscal conservative. As I said in my open statements, balanced budgets mean a lot to the community. We're a fiscally conservative community. The board, contrary to rumors and letters I see in the paper, the board has conservative values and has exhibited that with a track record the last 3 to 6 years to keep this community and school board and school district in a healthy spot moving forward. So a little bit why I'm running for school board, and again, proud to serve, and I hope to serve another 3 years.
Thank you, Kurt. Chris.
So the reason that I wanted to run for school board, and I know I touched on this a bit in my opening, it has to do with just how important the work of the school board and the school district really is. And that has to do with providing quality education to our children. And quality education is one of the best gifts that we can give to our children, because no matter what path they take in life, their education will be a key part of their success. And when our citizens succeed, our community succeeds. You know, working for West Bend Mutual Insurance for the past 26 years, I'm a member of the business community, and I know that other businesses in the community want, need, desire good workers in the community. And when you have well-educated workers who might go to college, maybe they go to a trade school, maybe they've received enough education right in high school to take some of these great jobs, that means they succeed, the businesses succeed, and once again, our community succeeds. And so it's one of these rare opportunities where if we get this right, everybody wins. And so I'm very passionate about that. The other item I'd close with is, having been on the board for the past 3 years, what I really appreciate is knowing and understanding the quality of the teams, the individuals that we have. And Kurt's right. Jen Wimmer is an absolutely amazing superintendent and will lead our community and our district forward very well. It's extremely exciting. So I look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Jody.
I touched on some of the reasons what motivates me to be here. So I'm going to go then to what really gets to my heart the most in the last year and two. And that is our curriculum, our resources, methods of learning, our standards. Last year, the 6th grade biology resource was being was up for proposal to be approved by the school board, and at the time the administration did not do a real good job, and that wasn't when we did not have Jen Wimmer at the time, but did not do a good job letting the community know to come in and take a look at it. There were some of us who were able to come in and take a look at it, and we found that it was not really fact-based. And for an example, they had biology. They basically were treating environment. Well, anyways, they were basically treating one type of theory as a settled science and not talking about any of the other theories. Then we've got the grading for learning that got approved last year, and that is no longer the 100% grading system that we used to have. And where that comes into problem is now with the 6th grade social studies, the National Geographic Global Studies issues that came up. The school board did agree that it is lacking content and that it is biased. And we found out that the teachers did not choose this resource either. They chose a more traditional textbook, but the administration said that the resource that's lacking the content and is biased is the only resource that fits the method of learning that was approved. So one thing that you should know about this is that, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, you get the next question. Given your desire to guide education by serving on the school board, what specific degrees have you earned and how will they benefit the board and our students?
So with regard to specific degrees, I graduated from, first of all, from high school in Horicon, Wisconsin. So I'm a proud Marshman. Yes, that's the mascot. But I say that because when I went to grade school, I went to parochial school. So I'm a product of parochial and public. But then onward, I went to Marquette University and received my Bachelor of Science in Accounting and Business Administration. I took and passed all the parts of the CPA exam. I enrolled and was accepted to Marquette University Law School, and so I am an attorney as well. And so those are the degrees that I have. And it's not necessarily all the degrees that you have. I think that make you a good school board member. You have to want to serve, and you have to want to root for your school district and for the community. But those degrees that I have come in very handy because the school district runs a large budget. It's a large operation. And so from a financial perspective, I think I'm very, very well equipped for that. And I think as the community knows, just about everything that the board touches has something to do with the law. And so having a law degree helps tremendously as well. And so I think I'm continue to be, with my experience on the school board as well as with my degrees, I think I'm well suited for school board service. Thank you.
Thank you. Jody.
Okay. Well, I am not able to say that I have the degrees that Chris has. I was a certified dental assistant, but I have done other things like I explained earlier. I've been a legal assistant before as well. I think that, again, like Chris said, it's not degrees that are the only thing that make you good for the school board. We have a board that's made up of 7 members, and each member is going to bring something new to the table or something different to the table. I think the fact that I've had children that I've raised in, all the way through the system, and all of the different things that I've volunteered with where I've been a part of the school system all through all grades, and the fact that I still work with children, parents, and stuff, I think that all of those things will help me be a good school board member and be able to be a voice for many different people in the community. And I'm also a taxpayer, just like everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. Kurt.
I'm the son of 2 educators myself. My dad was a guidance counselor at Greenfield High School. My mom was a Phi Ed teacher, did synchronized swimming for 25 years. I went to Greendale High School, went on to UW Stevens Point, graduated with a major in business finance and an economics minor. After college, I worked for large companies, Kemper Financial Systems, for about 5 years, went on to IBM for another 5 years, then got into the sales and marketing and promotions trade, opened my own business when I turned 40. I've done every job in my business, from doing the bookwork, making calls, being a receptionist, making coffee, selling our business. So I have that type of experience of being a business owner. I would say also I'm a coach. I loved coaching my son and daughter at the Y, and whether it's basketball, soccer. I'm a parent, obviously, with two kids that went through the school district. I'm a volunteer in the community, and if I have a little seconds left, I'll put on my sales and marketing hat. There's a kids free fishing clinic the Saturday after the election on April 7th, 6th at Regner Park. All kids, free, come out and fish. How this relates to the board, as you can see, I love promoting community events. I love promoting our school district, and I want to bring my experience to promote it further.
Thank you. Okay, Jody, you get the next question. How do you balance what your personal opinions and beliefs are versus what is best for every student when making decisions as a school board member?
First of all, I think, again, balance is a good word, because I do believe that every person that's on the school board is going to bring something from their personal beliefs or whatever to the school board, and that's why we have 7 members on the board, because with the blend of the different values that different people have and where they're coming from and their degrees, I think that's where you get a good balance. So I think also listening to the people, just making good common sense decisions, I think helps. But being on a board of 7, I think, is what is going to help balance everybody out, because everybody is going to have their own values and things that they're bringing to the board.
Thank you. Kurt.
Yeah, Craig, could you repeat the question?
Sure. How do you balance what your personal opinions and beliefs are versus what is best for every student when making decisions as a school board member?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Craig. I again, served on the school board not to bring my personal beliefs or personal agenda to the school board. I didn't know a lot of members of the school board before I got on. I didn't know Chris really well. I've gotten to know the members of the school board really well since serving with them. Again, personal agendas, no. I'm not in favor of that on the school board at all. It's not needed. It should be kids first. That should be also kind of rolling down to our curriculum too. And I know all our teachers have a kids first mentality as well. This is West Bend. We represent our community. This is not Madison. We do not promote a leftist, left-winged agenda here in West Bend. We promote a balanced curriculum. I know my daughter goes to Madison. Nothing against Madison. I love Madison, but their curriculum there has some personal agendas. I'm not for it here on the board. I'm not for it in our curriculum. I live my life to bring those beliefs here. Thanks.
Thank you. And Chris.
So I think one of the common themes that you've heard here is listening. And I think that is really one of the most important ways you can help to balance your personal opinion with what you're hearing around. And I think it's also important for a good school board member to recognize that you don't know everything. You don't. The education field is complicated. You know, I think sometimes we fall into the trap that we think, well, we all were students, so we all know how education works. But I can tell you that's not entirely true. And so it's really understanding that and recognizing that. We have a great staff, administrators, teachers. They are a wonderful source of information on any topic. But we also have the benefit of the public. And what's most important for us to do to balance those personal opinions is make sure, as we have, that we have processes in place that the public has a chance for input. There's been discussion about a curriculum tonight, and I think what's interesting is, you know, the discussion about the curriculum and is it a good curriculum or a bad curriculum. That's all possible because of the public forum that we have, the opportunities for the public to comment. And so in many ways, that means the process is actually working. Because I think the last thing you want to do as a school board member is to reach a conclusion before you've had the opportunity for input. Because otherwise, all that does is stifle input. Why would the public come forward to give opinion on issues if a school board member has already made up their mind? So listening is very important, and keeping an open mind and receiving all the information and processing it, that's an important part for making sure that your personal opinions are balanced. Thank you.
Thank you. Kurt, you get the next question. Do you see yourself primarily as a representative of the community or as a representative of the school system, and why?
All right. Obviously, I'm a taxpayer in the community. I'm a member of the community, so that makes me have community interest. I was elected to the school board to serve and try to bring my business knowledge and my personal experience from being in the community and, again, having 2 kids go through the school district. So, Craig, I think it's a balance of both. As Chris alluded to before, you really have to hear everyone. This year was the toughest to navigate the school system. There was, on one side, staunch people that wanted in-person learning and then wanted virtual. We were able to offer both. There is the mask versus no mask. Luckily, we followed all the guidelines. We kept our schools open, and we really kept the spread to a minimum in our schools. So really proud of kind of a balanced approach, hearing everybody in the community, hearing their needs this last year, and I really look forward to the future as we come out of this. Again, we were able to keep our clubs and sports and activities open for the kids. They so needed it. We're going to have a prom for the first year since we didn't have it last year. So we're really excited about summer programs coming fully back. And we can't wait to have Jen Wimmer focus next year on just enhancing the school district experience as a whole, not only for all the students, but again, the community. And she is doing a great job of bringing in the whole community, as is all our admin staff and all our teachers. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you. Chris?
So you asked whether a school board member views themselves as a member of the community or of the school board, the school district. What I'd say is the role is both. So as it relates to being a member of the community, a good school board member, I believe, will listen to the community and be a representative of the community and bring forward concerns, questions, needs, wants. But that's all very, very important. That's an incredibly important part of the process of input in all the decisions that a school board would make. And so community, a very, very key part, a key role for school board members. But in addition, on the school board, being a kind of a member of the district, well, you always want to be an advocate of your own district. That's very, very important. But you also want to be a partner with the district to understand, to learn. Again, this listening theme really comes through. So I would say, again, you're both, and it's important to remember that you're both. And I would say our school district does our school board does a very good job at that. So thank you for the question.
Thank you. Jody?
Okay. I believe I'm a representative of the community, the whole community, which that includes the taxpayers, the parents, the students, the teachers, the businesses, the vendors, and through that, we also represent the school. When we talk about transparency, and we talk about the forum that we had for people coming forth, that was initiated by me. That was not initiated by the school board. I noticed that they were getting ready to approve the social studies curriculum, for an example, and I had to call the district office to ask, when is the public going to be able to see it? They called me back on a Monday, said I had until Friday to bring in some people to look at it, and I said, well, Tuesday's election day, Wednesday's Ash Wednesday, that only gives me Thursday night if you don't want me to come in on a Friday night. So they did end up, after getting a little heat, extending it another week, and they did end up, after getting a little heat, actually putting it in the library so that more of the public would have an opportunity to see it after hours instead of from like 8 to 12, Monday through Wednesday. And so I think that by that, I want to, as a school board member, make sure we are letting the community know far enough in advance so they can mark their calendars and get a chance to have some input on things like our curriculum and our standards. I believe we should be a cheerleader for our school, but if we're only a cheerleader, then our mind, our eyes are closed to things that we need to do to improve. And we should always be looking at ways to improve. We're not just a body of 7 cheerleaders for the school. So I think that is about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, you get the next question. Do you support a return to complete face-to-face instruction for all students, and how do you think the students fared during the virtual instruction in the current year?
So I'll start with the second part first, which is how did the students fare during the virtual part of the year? I am proud of the fact that the district had the ability to utilize virtual education. It was very important, and it was an important technique to make sure that we could keep students who wanted to be educated in person actually in the schools. And so that's great. My personal view, though, is that the in-person learning opportunities are more effective. There are some students who do extraordinarily well with virtual education, and we should give them the opportunity to continue to do that. But as it relates to face-to-face, I really think that is the way the district is originally geared to provide a great education. And so that's something that we need to support. We need to support being able to get back to face-to-face learning. And what I'm also proud of is we have a county and a county health board that are also very, very interested in the same thing. And so it's important that we work closely with them and in partnership with them to make sure that our transition to more face-to-face in fall will be done safely and appropriately. But my preference would be we are able to maximize the opportunities for in-person learning back in fall. I'm looking forward to a year that looks much more like normal. Thank you.
Thank you. Jody? Certainly. Do you support a return to complete face-to-face instruction for all students, and how do you think the students fared during the virtual instruction in the current year?
Okay, I do agree with everything that Chris said. And I do think that when it first started out with the virtual, it was very shaky, but of course it was the first time our teachers had an opportunity to teach this way. I do think that it got better as the time went, but I am for face-to-face as soon as we can get back safely. And I also noticed that when we do virtual, the teachers were kind of overworked with trying to do their virtual and their in-person, and so they ended up needing, I believe, extra days, work days. And so when they get the extra work days, I don't know that we actually added any extra school days for the students, and so that's actually taken away from the students' learning too. And I'm not saying that to be hard on the teachers. I'm just saying it's a matter of fact that the kids are getting less days of education if we're giving more days to the teachers for in order to make up for the virtual that they have to do. So I would like to see everything get back. I think that we have to, I'm glad to see that we have a really conservative board and everything that's not for the community. That's also, and the health board that's also helping to get us back to where we need to be, because I do think we need to look at the true risk of the harms from the virus versus the social, emotional, and the educational harms. Thank you.
Thank you. Kurt?
Yes, the board was a strong supporter of face-to-face education this year. The teachers were too, the administrative staff, that's the way we had it. So going into next year, I'm a strong proponent of getting as many kids back in school as possible. It is so critical at a grade school level to have the kids in-person learning, and we're able to do that this year. But you need a virtual option in just today's environment to do one thing. We're trending down in students. If that's not a question, that is a challenge of the district. We're trending down in students. We have to have a virtual option so we don't lose those students. Some of those students can do some virtual classes, yet participate in clubs and activities. And when they're comfortable coming back, they can. So we're going to have that option for them. But we are going to encourage people to be face-to-face. I will say why, again, grade school we need face-to-face, and CTE, STEM, and science classes we need face-to-face in the high school. Just to hit on some CTE classes, I ran 3 years ago to enhance our CTE and trades classes. Just this year, if anyone was listening to the school board meeting on Monday, Rob Wilmos, West Bend school tech ed teacher, had an advanced construction class this year, 24 students, brand new, Kewaskum and West Bend. They built a tiny house with Habitat from Humanity. They're going to auction off this house for Habitat this summer. I hope you all bid on it. It's going to be an online auction. Raise money for a Habitat for Humanity, kind of public-private partnership. Again, CTE classes, Nifty Nibble, Sally Horia, wonderful job. You need to have learning to culinate in person. Science classes, you need to be in science labs. So strong proponent of in-person, face-to-face learning, and we've been able to accomplish that this year.
Thank you. Jody, you get the next question. Do you intend to challenge or try to change the current curriculum in the district?
If I think that there's something that I don't think is, what I want content-rich, fact-based, balanced education that doesn't have a political bias to it. If I see something and I see other members of the community are agreeing, the teachers did not choose this social studies curriculum. They had a more traditional textbook that they chose. I'm hearing teachers when I'm knocking on doors telling me that they actually, some of them left to teach in private schools, or they're teaching in the parochials in the public school, but their kids are doing other kinds of learning because they're seeing the bias as well. I have a high schooler who read some of my letters to the editor, and he agreed that he saw some bias in the schools, not only in the high school, but also in the middle school. And so he's on my team helping me knock on doors because he would like to see the bias go. One of the things that we have going on is CNN 10 is what our middle school are watching, and although it's supposed to be a less biased than CNN, it's not always less biased, and if we know that the parent company is CNN, then we know there is going to be some bias to it. We have always, as far as the virtual, going back to that, we've always had, I mean, for a little while now, before COVID, some virtual learning. But put together by experts that's what they do. So the students could do that if they wanted to. We've had students that sometimes will come to school for in-person learning for a part of the day, and then they'll do some of their classes virtually when they get home, and that helps them with their work schedules and things too. So we're not going to lose that by having our teachers not have to teach the virtual anymore. We still have that in the community. If people so choose to do that type of learning. But I do think that when we can get for those that want in-person learning, okay.
Thank you. Kurt?
Yeah, that's a challenging question, Craig. I believe, because I've seen it firsthand, I know over 100 teachers in this district. We have 400. My kids, again, I went through K through 12 here. I think we have a wonderful teaching staff that produces fact-based, non-biased education. Yes, there is processes to catch outliers, like even Jody's bringing up the 6th grade curriculum. That is receiving community input. The process is working. I have to tell you, I got some calls when the 3 candidates were announced for school board and Jody was announced, and there was some past science teachers that were very concerned with, again, maybe this topic, challenging especially our science curriculum. And I did some reading, Jody, abortion-tainted COVID-19 vaccines as produced by Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson. That's one of the concerns of basic science, and basic science education leads to scientists at these companies producing these wonderful vaccines. I'm a proponent of vaccines. It's your choice whether to take them or not. I'm a proponent of great science. We have some great science teachers here. The latest being Skip Clark, as recognized by the state of Wisconsin, Herb Cole Foundation Award. Paul Deschamps, 20 years ago, award-winning scientist, and he taught in this school district for a long time. So it's a passion, it's a hard issue for me to bring up, but I don't have a personal agenda to go into our curriculum. I do think you do, Jody.
Thank you. Chris?
Craig, you asked about challenging curriculum. I think it's our role on the school board to always challenge curriculum. And when I say that, it's our role to challenge school administration. What can we do to make the curriculum better? It's a constant cycle of improvement because needs change, topics change, subjects change. In fact, at Monday's meeting, the school board looked at new ELA, English Language Arts standards. And the administration discussed, why are these better than the ones that we have now? What's the idea? And the board didn't take action on it. We want to give the opportunity for public input. And so we should always challenge curriculum. Curriculum should not stay still. We need to be sure that we're constantly looking at it. And by the way, I asked the question just to be sure, do these new ELA standards continue to include penmanship and cursive? And they do. So I was happy about that. The other item that I would bring up, and it's consistent with comments that you've heard here before, but with regard to curriculum, it's interesting the perspectives that we have, because I think some of the items that Jody brought up and her passion for curriculum are very important. That needs to be brought in for public input, and it was. She had some suggestions around making resources available to the library, and we listened. And there were items around maybe we should give the public more time, and we said, you're right, let's do that. And so again, that is a keen part of it, and I think that process is working. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, Kurt, you get the next question. Do you intend to support or oppose a strategic building plan for the district?
So, buildings and facilities I'm passionate about as well. I carry around these in my briefcase often. This is the West Bend School District Private Task Force, October 12th, 2019. A lot of our community members put a lot of effort into this, from our local businesses and city government, to look at our school buildings. We have 12 school buildings. If people don't know, we have 9 schools, 1,213,000 square foot of schools under space. There was an independent task force that was reviewed. We have an excellent director of building grounds, Dave Ross, that provided a facility information packet for this task force, and really any member of the community that wanted to see our facilities. Our facilities are a challenge, but let me go off. We're in a good position to solve that challenge. Why do I say that? We're reducing debt. In my opening statement, I said we've reduced referendum debt by 10 million. We're one of the lowest debt to equity ratios as a school district in the state. So we can solve those facility challenges. What we need is community input. If we solve the declining enrollment problem, which it could be a year or two away from solving, I say that because grade school are leveling off. Our K-4 is 385 students. Our kindergarten class is right around 380, so we're seeing a level off. Our graduating class this year is 500 students from East and West. So we're going to have another declining year next year. We're fighting for as many students as possible. We need to solve the facilities challenge. We have the information. I look forward to solving them with all community input.
Chris.
So I do support the idea of a strategic building plan, but in my mind, it can't start with buildings. It has to start with needs. What does our community need? And once again, you've heard me talk about the theme of listening, but again, this is where we need to listen to the public to better understand. We have perspective perhaps as to what the district needs, but we need to seek that input. Yes, we own buildings. Buildings, when you have them, just like my house, they need fixing. They don't always need to be replaced, but they always need fixing. And so that's something we need to get into a continued better habit to make sure that we set aside sufficient resources to maintain our buildings. And over the last several years, the board has done that. And you've probably seen all sorts of roofing projects, important maintenance that needs to be done, as well as the opportunity to combine our libraries in the high school. And so we take advantage of those. But we have an opportunity ahead of us because we talked earlier about declining enrollment. Well, a strategic building plan shouldn't just focus on building new buildings, but also are there opportunities to consolidate? Can we right-size the district to help solve some of these facilities challenges? I mean, that's a big opportunity for us. And as Kurt said, and I totally agree, really the idea of making sure from the school board side that we keep our options open and flexibility. We're in a great position debt-wise, as Kurt said. That doesn't mean that because we have little debt, we should borrow a lot. But if we need to borrow any, we are in an amazing position. And so, yes, we need to plan ahead. And I absolutely support that. Our district is in a strong, strong spot, no matter which direction we want to take. Thank you.
Thank you. Jody?
Okay. I agree with what these guys said. I would like to, I've suggested this before and I'd like to suggest it again. As far as the task force plan goes, that would be something that would be great to put up on the district website so that anybody that would like to refer to it, especially when they hear about it at places like this, they actually have a place where they can go ahead and look at it. Because I hear a lot about it and I refer to it often, but I've never actually gotten to see it myself. So that would be one point of transparency. When it comes to the $10 million that we've saved, I would like to point out that it was the finance director, Andy Sarnow, who took it upon himself to refinance our debt, and that's where we saved the money. And so, so that was wonderful. So thank you to Andy for keeping up with that and knowing when to refinance. So anyway, I am open to all these same things. I believe we can manage our facilities and stay within budget, and it's great that we are ahead in money. So, and now, since I still got another minute, I think, left, I would like to go back and talk about a couple things that Kurt mentioned. First of all, I love Mr. Clark. I've worked with him on confirmation retreats before at our church. He's a friend, and our kids have gone to school together. When we're talking about vaccines that he brought up, first of all, one thing that parents should know about is part of this resource. One of the booklets in it is called a health booklet. I don't know why we're teaching health in social studies class. We have a special department for that. But in the health booklet, it does all positives on vaccines. We know with the COVID vaccine right now, one thing for sure, that vaccines are pharmaceuticals and they all have risks. And we should not be teaching about vaccines in classes. I think 50% of the people in this community won't like that. Thank you.
Next question is for you, Chris. Do you want to reopen pay and benefit negotiations with the teachers union despite the absence of a legal requirement to do so?
So that's a great question. Act 10, it was an important part of our legislative history, and it's a law that we need to comply with. I think if you look back at the last several years, one of the things that our board was really looking to move forward was a better, more well-defined compensation plan for our teachers. And that's something that we adopted. And so, again, I think we need to respect that process. And so that's the process that I would advocate following. When we snap back and forth between different methods of compensation, it promotes confusion, and it's tough to develop long-term goals and objectives related to compensation when we're moving around. And so, compensation is an incredibly important part of the school board's responsibilities, because we want to attract, retain the best quality teachers. And so it's not something to be dealt with lightly, but I'm very, very happy with the direction that this has taken and with the plans and strategies that we've laid in place with the teachers with the new compensation plan. And so I would want to honor that plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Jody?
Again, can you please repeat the question?
Sure. Do you want to reopen pay and benefit negotiations with the teachers union despite the absence of a legal requirement to do so?
I'm not exactly sure how to answer that question, except that I know that I believe in a balanced scorecard. I believe that teachers should be held accountable for how they perform. I believe that their pay should be based 50% on how students are doing and 50% on things that the teachers have more control over, such as the 6 professional attributes of teaching. That would be like, are they a leader in their school? Are they a mentor? Do they have a style of teaching that helps the kids learn? And their overall professionalism. I do think that a good teacher appreciates that, because some of these teachers, if they have teachers before them that aren't doing a good job teaching, then when the kids come to them, these students aren't ready to be taught by the good teachers. And so I think that it helps all teachers when teachers are held accountable, because it makes teaching easier for all the teachers when the students are ready for them. And so that's it.
Thank you. Kurt?
Yeah, doing a little house cleaning item. Sometimes I speak so fast. I did not get any calls or inquiries from current school teachers. It was retired teachers that might have called me as a concern, and they have remained nameless. So I want to clear up one more item. West Bend Private Task Force. We had a school board meeting. I just looked through my notes, December 2nd. So it should be in public records as of December 2nd. This task force should have been out there. We'll make sure it's out there. But there was a board meeting December 2nd, and that would have been posted since December 2nd on our school district website. But on teacher pay and the challenges there, let me first start out with declining enrollment. When Chris and I came on the board, we were facing a $1.5 million balanced budget deficit. That was a challenging time 3 years ago. We had to cut $1.3 million from the school district budget. We cut it from our administration and supplies and general expenses we used. We didn't cut it from teachers facing the students in the classroom, because we put a priority to educating our students and our teachers. Regarding teacher compensation, we again, as I said earlier, we have a great superintendent in Jen Wimmer that gets along well with everyone in our school district staff. We have Andy Sarno, a finance director that is second to none in the state. We have Lenny Hansen, director of HR, who is an up-and-coming rising star. Our administrative staff is incredible. If you think back 5 years ago, it was a rotating administrative staff window. Now it's a set group of quality individuals, and they're going to negotiate in good, fair faith with our teachers and try to keep as many of them in this district as we can.
Thank you. Okay, the ninth question goes to you, Jody. What is your vision for education in our community?
Like I said, I believe in a content-rich, fact-based, balanced education. I believe the classical education, I know we can say, oh, we know, we went through it or whatever, but I think that we need to, when we're going to get ready to approve curriculum, standards, resources, we need to actually open up the books, look at the covers, open up the books, read through what we're approving. And I know from even watching the curriculum committee meetings that the first time any of our school board, I think, actually even saw the covers was at that meeting. And so, and that meeting talked about the community having come in and already having looked through the resources and made their comments. So I think that we need to just be sure that that is what our education is, that the kids are getting a content-rich, fact-based, balanced education. If we're going to talk about that we evolved from apes in biology, that's great. That is a theory. We should teach that. But we should also teach it with the other theories, such as creation, the Big Bang, etc., and show how they are all theories and what the loopholes are and why they are still considered theories. If we're going to be teaching about climate change, that most scientists think it's man-made, tell us who the scientists are, where they got it from, but let's also hear about the other scientists who have another opinion and why they might have another opinion. Let's get a balanced, fact-based education. Thank you.
Kurt.
I love talking about education. Maybe another fun fact here. This is the fourth time I mentioned Jen Wimmer. She was the director of curriculum for Waukesha School District. Huge school district, a little bigger than West Bend. So we have some rock star curriculum individuals in this district. And again, we have, I think, a strong curriculum. Again, I've said my son and daughter went through that, and I'm so proud of the education they got. I'd like to highlight a little bit about our education I didn't get a chance to mention. We have a great 4K program led by Emily Melstrad. If you hear her talk about the passion about our 4K, we have partners with the Jackson Community Center. We have partnerships with the YMCA. And I'm forgetting one more, I apologize. But we're looking to promote our 4K. It's a wonderful program. We've seen it spike up in recent years. Our grade schools, tremendous scores from our grade schools from testing, from Jackson to McLean to Green Tree to Fair Park. 5th and 6th grade. Do you know we teach language in 5th and 6th grade, not like other communities? We make band and chorus available as well to 5th and 6th grade. 7th and 8th grade, we prep our students for high schools. Dave Ullman and the teachers and staff do a wonderful job prepping our students while offering a lot of clubs and activities at a 7th and 8th grade level. At a high school level, again, I've highlighted some of our courses, just if I mention a couple more. CTE related, our automotive, our digital media, our IT team. Tim Harder, our wonderful director of technology, has an IT program that high school students can enter an IT support background and support the school district. They're job ready when they graduate from high school, either to go on to secondary education or to take a job. These are some of our wonderful education stories we need to tell and not tell. We need to tell it more.
Thank you. Chris.
So my vision for education in the district would be to provide the most educational opportunities at the highest quality that prepare our students for the next stage in life, whether it's college or career, whatever it may be. And you know the best part of it? We're doing that today. We provide amazing opportunities for our kids, and we've heard some of them earlier, so I won't repeat that. But that happens through an amazing combination of administration, teachers, parents, students, a community that pulls together. The amazing opportunities that we have, like Kurt talked about, with trades where we're partnering with local businesses. I mean, that's just one small example. Another example, I have an individual who graduated from West Bend and enrolled in, ultimately went to college, graduated, I think it was an entire semester early, is now in law school. I mean, when you think about the fact that he graduated college early because of the credits that he got, I mean, that saved him an entire semester of his life as it relates to time and to money. That's just one small example. So we always have room to improve, and we will expand our offerings. So there's always more to do. But the neat part about it is we're doing it today.
Okay, we're coming to the end. This is the last question, and Kurt, you get it first. What sets you apart from the other candidates running for the board?
Well, again, I'll just say the board is a collaboration of different individuals from different backgrounds coming together to serve the community and give back to the community without any personal agendas. And I should say, my background compared to like Chris's, we're so lucky to have him on the board. I'm just saying, Chief Legal Officer at West Bend Mutual. Can you believe that we have him on the board? It's just incredible. So we have some incredible backgrounds in our current board. I could go down the word. So I feel like my part, where I fit on the board, is I have the financial acumen, I have a passion for balanced budgets, I have a passion for caring for our staff and our community. As you can see, I'm a little passionate guy. And I have a sales and marketing background. I love to promote our school district. So I think the collaboration of all the different backgrounds of the people on the board lead to a supportive board. We don't all agree on all of the topics. That is a misnomer. We don't all agree, but a supportive board and a collaborative board, and I hope to be a part of it for 3 more years.
Thank you. Chris? So earlier tonight I had the opportunity to talk about degrees and such. I really, so does that set me apart? Sure, but I think we need to understand and respect that, as Kurt has said, the board draws strength from its diversity of backgrounds and skills. And so it's good to be different. And it's not a matter of better or worse. That difference allows us, it creates strength. And so that's very important. Kurt, for instance, he has marketing skills that I don't have. And although we all have a passion for facilities issues, Kurt's expertise has just really served this district well and will continue to. And so I'm proud of the fact that we are different in that respect. And Kurt, I agree. I know there are several times when you and I voted yes versus no on certain issues. And that's important, because that diversity of perspective. So yes, I will bring my strengths to the board, whether it's accounting or whether it's law or whether it's the relationships that I've set up, my knowledge of the business community, absolutely. But I don't view myself as superior. I just view myself as one player in this diverse mix. Thank you.
Thank you. Jody.
All right. And I agree with what you guys have said about diversity on the board. And I think one of the things that I can bring to the board is that I stay informed. For an example, at the last forum that we were at, one of the questions asked was about the 1619 project. And I know that at least one of the candidates was not informed about what that was. I keep myself informed, so I think I can bring that to the board. When things like that come up, not that anybody has to follow my opinion on it, but at least I can help keep the board informed on issues like that. And I think that, again, I am a community player, so I want the community. I think parents have the right to know what their children are being taught. I think taxpayers have the right to know where their money is being spent. And so we need to inform everybody far enough in advance so if they want to be a part, have a say, take a look, they have plenty of opportunity, and their voices should count, not just, some people feel like they write things down and it's ignored. In this case, the teachers might even be ignored with the social studies curriculum because it doesn't fit the method of learning. And I think that that's backwards. We send our kids to school for content, and the teachers are trained to know how to teach that content to the students, not the other way around. And so are we sending our kids to school to make sure that they graduate regardless of whether or not they really have the content they need? Or are we going to try to make sure that they get the content that they need? And yes, I love all the extra programs that we have in the school. I loved the tiny house thing. I got to watch that too, and I was very proud of that.
Thank you. Okay, we're into closing remarks, and Chris, you get to start.
Craig, thanks again for hosting this, and to the chamber members. Really appreciated the opportunity to allow us to speak with regard to our positions. So thank you again very much. So when I had the chance to introduce myself, I talked about the strength of our district. I talked about the ability to turn challenges into opportunities, and I'm really, really glad we had a chance to talk about several of those today. As school board members, I think really the important thing to remember is we are stewards of this district's children and its tax dollars. And I just ask you to take a look at our track record, especially this past year, because we delivered a balanced budget during a pandemic, kept our schools open for in-person learning, but gave parents the choice of whether or not to avail themselves of in-person or virtual. And we talked about the challenges of declining enrollment. I talked about how we can turn that into an opportunity, especially with regard to our facilities. Our facilities need attention. We will listen to the public with regard to the needs for those. You know, and we also, I appreciated the question about diversity. You know, one thing I think that maybe doesn't make us as diverse is I would consider ourselves, the candidates here, to all be conservative. We are in a generationally conservative community. And I think sometimes there's the thought that behind the scenes, the school board is, you know, trying to instill some radical ideas with our students. What I tell you is, you know, the reason that that's false is because if it were true, we are terrible at that. So we don't do that. We are conservative, and so I think that's a common bond. And so I know that Kurt and I, as incumbents, have a deep understanding of all of these issues. We have the experience. I know we want to put that experience to work. I humbly ask for your vote so I may serve another 3 years on the school board. Thank you.
Thank you. Jody?
Okay, first of all, I wanted to say the balanced budget, that's great, but during the pandemic, we had a lot less expenses, like we didn't have buses driving people around and things like that. So I would hope that we could keep a balanced budget because we should have had less expenses. And we did, of course, have lower interest rates because of, again, Andy Sarnow was able to refinance our debt. So that's wonderful. And I'm not accusing the board of trying to instill radical ideas. What I am trying to say is that they haven't been informing the public far enough in advance so that the public can help them determine whether or not the resources and stuff meets the core values of the community. And they have not actually opened up the covers of the books, to look through them, to make sure that they're not accidentally instilling radical ideas. I think we need to be held a little bit more accountable to those things, and I would like to do that. Even if the rest of the board doesn't have time, at least one of the 7 of us would have time to do that and make it a priority to help. So that's something I could offer the board. This wasn't our closing, was it?
Yes.
Oh, it is my closing. Oh, my
Yes.
goodness. Well, then, I had one statement I wanted to make at my closing, and that is, I feel the school board members must ask the right questions, show respect, and communicate with the public, and have a balanced position because we represent all groups of our community, not just the administration. If you want real positive changes in your school district, please vote only for me, Jody Geenan, for West Bend School Board now, during early voting, or on April 6th. Thank you.
Kurt, you get the very last word.
Well, thanks, Craig, and thanks, everyone. Hopefully, everyone is still listening. Thank you, Jody. Thank you, Chris. It's been a spirited but real nice. I respect both of you totally. Again, community-minded people looking to serve on the board. Thankless task, and thanks for running, both of you. I should say, also, my first vote is not going to be for me, it's going to be for Chris, because I think he's more qualified than me. So I'm going to check Chris's name, and then I'll think about it, and I'll analyze myself as a candidate and hopefully check my name. Again, I'm proud of our accomplishments as a board, being a fiscally conservative board, pro-West Bend School District. If I mention Jen Wimmer one more time, a rock star superintendent, love our teachers in the community. Our students, they're so happy to be back. You should see the happiness in their eyes to be back in learning. I want to thank my wife for standing by me for 31 years. I still want to take you on your 30th wedding anniversary. I got diagnosed with cancer right before my 30th wedding anniversary. I was going to take her to Europe. I'll take you there, wife. I hope you're still listening and not watching American Idol. But thank you for standing by me for 2 years on the board as I was fighting cancer. I only missed 2 board meetings. I'm fully healed now. I look forward to bringing my passion back, even promote the school district even in a greater voice with some of my sales and marketing background. And just I'm humbled to serve for the last 3 years, and I'm asking for your vote for the next 3 years, and I'll serve you proudly and with a passion. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all of the candidates. You all defended your honor very well. I am also very grateful that all 3 of you are representing members of the local chamber, so thank you for that. With that, that's going to conclude this section of the forum, and I wish all of the candidates the very best in the upcoming election. So good luck, and I'll let you go on your way. Okay. Welcome to all of the candidates for City Council. I'd like to welcome the 7 candidates for City Council. For District 2, Mark Allen and Chris Thompson. For District 4, Michelle Schiefelbein, is that correct? Yes. For District 6, Tracy Ahrens and Kyle Zweig. And for District 8, Megan Kennedy and Clifford Van Beek. Candidate Randy Kaler was unable to attend due to a previous commitment. We were going to start now in alphabetical order for this session, and the opening remarks will be started by Tracy.
Thank you, Craig, and the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this great event. I'm Tracy Ahrens, and I'm running for the West Bend District 6 Alderman. I am married. I have 4 children. They range from age 11 to 28. We also have a grandchild. My husband and I own Ahrens Heating and Cooling. We have owned that business for 12 years now, and we are a chamber member, and we've been a chamber member since day one. We made a decision to move to West Bend 24 years ago because it was a conservative community. Fast forward 23 years later, and that very conservative principle would be the difference between my friends and neighbors being allowed to work and not work. I am so glad we moved here. In November, my county supervisor, Dennis Kelling, asked me if I ever thought about running for alderman. And after some discussions and a little research, here I am. What drove me to that decision was the tax increases the last 2 years, especially during a pandemic. Since I have committed to run, I have been on a crash course to learn. I have attended every single Common Council meeting in person to better understand the job, learn the terminology, meet the players, become a familiar face, and to prove my dedication to my neighbors. No excuses. I have met other aldermen, former aldermen, the mayor, school board members, and even our county exec to get a deeper understanding of our needs as a whole. I have attended on average 2 other meetings per week, put on by various groups that are committed to community to get even more insight. My focus will be the budget, getting our roads addressed, supporting growth and development, the right kind of growth and development, and public safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark.
Yeah, hi, my name's Mark Allen. I'm the District 2 Alderman.
Put on your mic. Try it again.
I hit it. I didn't look for the green light. Hi, my name's Mark Allen. I'm the incumbent District 2 Alderman. I've lived in West Bend in District 2 at the same corner for the last 22 plus years. I chose to run for re-election because I believe my work's not done. I think we've made some positive moves on the council in terms of getting infrastructure underway. That required that we make some structural changes to how the council was laid out and how some of the committees functioned. With those in place, we've actually had the ability to do some infrastructure projects at the city level that would have normally been contracted out into the private sector. Notably up in Barton, Roosevelt Avenue, southeast of Barton Avenue. And in District 3, Bobolink Lane, both of those were resurfaced totally by city resources. I also believe that we need to spend time and effort educating the community on how the budgeting process works. We don't sit around and try and figure out, oh, how much money can we tax? We create a budget that's based on the actual needs of the city, and that drives the tax mill rate. Thank you.
Thank you. Megan.
All right. I'm Megan Kennedy, and I am your District 8 alderman. I was appointed alderman when our former alderman retired due to health reasons midterm. Several residents, including my opponent, stepped forward with resumes and interviewed with the Common Council to be considered for the alderman appointee. Within the interview process, I received 6 of the 7 aldermen voting to appoint me. I was recognized as the top candidate based on my experience, knowledge of the city, and community involvement. In addition to being the alderman for District 8, I'm the finance chair for the city of West Bend. I'm a commissioner on Parks and Rec. I also sit on many subcommittees for the city. I work full-time as a corporate business analyst, and in my free time, I am also an advisory board member for a local charity called MELS that's donated over $1.5 million to local organizations. I just really enjoy being involved in the community and serving as alderman. My main focus for the city of West Bend is on low taxes, repairing roads, and public safety. To me, fiscal responsibility really is key, and making sure that each tax dollar is spent wisely. During the budget talks, I was open and honest with some of my concerns, including the city increasing their share of employee health insurance and the cost of raises during a pandemic when our citizens were hurting. I'm also really glad that I bring another perspective to the board. Right now, I'm the only woman on the board currently serving, and I'm only one of 2 people not in retirement that sits on our board. It's important for District 8 residents to know they're going to have 2 really different people with 2 really different political philosophies that they're going to choose from in District 8 this April, and I think that's what democracy is about. Thank you.
Thank you. Cliff.
Thank you, Craig. I'd like to
Push the button. There you
push
go.
my green button. Okay. I'd like to thank you, Craig, and the Chamber for sponsoring this forum. Appreciate it. My name is Cliff Van Beek. I worked in the animal department at the Milwaukee County Zoo for more than 30 years. I've also served in the military in the Army for 30 years. 3 of the years were active, 27 were in the reserve. I moved to West Bend 15 years ago, and I've grown to love this city and everything it has to offer. The last elected person in this position was Roger Kist. His long career of public service is an inspiration to anybody who knew him, and it's my goal to pick up the mantle of his service and continue it a little further down the road. This is my first venture into politics, and it's been an eye-opener for me. Most of us are aware the political system is kind of broken on the national level. Either side doesn't seem to be able to sit down and work together. Lies, distortions, vitriol seem to rule the day. I'm going to try and keep a positive attitude and hope to give back to West Bend a little bit of what they've given to me. I've served 8 years as a crossing guard. I've also been on a Chamber of Commerce committee for a dozen years working on the Cash Bash, and we're looking forward to the second week in August again this year. Should be great. I've also volunteered at Loch Lorraine a few times doing prairie burns in the Sedola Prairie. I'm a conservative, independent, nonpartisan affiliated person. I'm a non-party affiliated person. My hope is to work with all the council members and the staff and the mayor to address West Bend's issues. Divisive politics have no place in our community. They're a negative influence, and they serve to separate us. My name is Cliff Van Beek. I've served my country, and I would like to serve the people of the 8th District. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Schiffen, and I am running for District 4 for Alderman.
And you need to press your button, too.
Hello, good evening. My name is Michelle Schiffen, and I'm running for District 4 Alderman. Thank you to the West Bend Chamber of Commerce for having this event. I truly appreciate it as well. So just kind of a little bit about me. I'm a proud 20-year resident of the city of West Bend. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, and I honestly just love the city of West Bend. I've been very active along the city of West Bend, working through many boards, working through this city as well, different sorts of meetings. I've also been very active in my son's school, where I served as a president for Kennemer Lutheran High School Charter Club, which actually is the booster club. Serving on different city committees, which I think is important, serving on board of directors for Washington County 4-H, also a youth leader. So I'm very involved, and I love volunteering. But more importantly, we moved to West Bend to raise our family knowing that it was a great community and it had so much to offer. I want to be the voice for my district as I plan on asking residents what they need, what the city might be lacking, and what I can do as a District 4 alderman to uphold what they're looking for. I've met with the mayor, I've met with the county executive to get some more insight as to what is going on in the city, and I think that we do have something that we can help out with all in general. So thank you for this opportunity, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Chris?
Good evening. First of all, thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for putting on this forum. I really appreciate the opportunity to get out and speak to everybody. My name is Chris Thompson. I'm running for the District 2 Alderman seat in the city of West Bend. A little bit of background on me. I have been a resident of West Bend for the past 15 years, resident of District 2 in particular for the last 5. Came up here from Milwaukee actually to visit some family members and decided to stay about 15 years ago. So that's how we ended up here. But we love the city and see we've watched our children grow up here. I've got a wife of 17 years, and our two wonderful kids. Daughter's 15, and my son just turned 12 last weekend. Both students in the district. We care very much about the community, very passionate about driving and supporting local organizations and local businesses. We've been known in the past to volunteer at organizations like Habitat for Humanity and Family Promise. This is my first time running for a political office. In my career, I work as a marketing manager for Johnson Controls. I've been in that role for just a couple of months. Prior to that, I was working for another manufacturer, and I've got a background in working in sales and marketing for manufacturing for the past 13 years. I work strongly with managing budgets and negotiating with organizations and partners that we work with. The main reason that I'm running is primarily because of the tax issue. I'm concerned that as of late, the Common Council has become a little too comfortable with raising our taxes to solve problems, especially last year when we took in one of the largest tax levies in organic growth in tax levies last year. We still saw fit to raise an incremental tax rate on top of that. So that's one of the primary reasons I'm running. I intend to bring some vigilance and common sense to ensure the city's needs are met without overburdening our tax base. Thank you.
Kyle.
Thank you, Craig. Greetings, West Bend. My name's Kyle Zweig. I am running for District 6 Alderman. First, I'd like to thank Craig and the West Bend Area Chamber, a great civic organization who I feel always does a fine job hosting this event. I can't imagine spring election season without it. So when I began this campaign, my goals were simple: listen, learn, and be ready to contribute. Ideas, opinions, or an empathetic ear. I've been a resident of West Bend for most of my life, spending 30 years in the city, including 26 and counting in District 6. I have a bit of an unusual background as far as careers go. I began life as a newspaper reporter after studying communications before shifting into finance. Having spent some time in larger cities like Madison and Milwaukee, the choice to come back was simple. Our town boasts an unrivaled quality of life, and it's an all-American small-town atmosphere that you can share with wonderful family and friends. We host a surging arts and entertainment scene, farmers market that is second to none in our area, and close proximity to Wisconsin's largest city and economic hub. Most importantly, the tax burden here has and always will remain low, a credit to sensible fiscal stewardship and generations of conservative leaders. Meanwhile, ingenuity in our town remains high. Our city continues to do the same or more with the same or less. Finances have gotten tougher, but we still have great news to celebrate. Milwaukee Tool being just one huge success story that I think we can credit to responsible conservative values that our city council shares. I'm running both to see this fiscal restraint continue, but also to bring a perspective that I see underserved in our town. That of a working class parent. We carry the greatest burden of taxation decisions. We drive on decaying roads to take our children to drive ourselves to our jobs and to drive our children to daycares or school. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark, you're going to get the very first question. What qualities do you bring to the city council that would benefit the community?
I spent 12 and a half years on active duty in the U.S. Coast Guard and learned how to lead, how to follow, how to plan. I took what I learned in the Coast Guard with me into both public sector and private sector jobs right up through present. So I understand what's involved in creating plans and executing plans, and the importance of strong leadership in getting things done. I also, because throughout my entire work life, I've always worked with restraint in terms of fiscal expenditures. One of the hallmarks of being in the Coast Guard was they concept, we've done so much with so little for so long, we're now qualified to do anything with nothing forever. Coast Guard was basically the one military service that did not have big budgets. We got a lot of hand-me-down stuff, so I know the importance of maintenance. I've been involved with maintenance on and off for my entire work history. We need to take some of those lessons that I learned and move them into the city government. And that, I think that will do it, Craig. Thank you.
Thank you. Megan?
Sure. I think for me, what I really bring to the city is the business experience, being in corporate life and understanding finance, trends, business trends year over year, and being able to analyze things. I also have a great knowledge of the city. Like I said, I've been on a lot of committees. I served as a citizen member of the Parks and Rec Board before I was even thinking about becoming an alderman. And on top of that, my community involvement. I'm really surprised when I campaign and I hear people thank me so much for my involvement. I'm known on social media, approaching people, being a part of boards, the All Abilities Playground Board, for example, getting to know people, understanding what they need and what they are thinking. So just that engagement level that I think so many people in our community want to see and want to hear from their representatives, I really bring to the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Cliff?
Thank you, Craig. Some of the qualities that I bring to the table is 30 years military experience in a number of different continents and positions. We're ranging from just small unit leadership to brigade level experiences. In my civilian job, the zoo has 10 different departments, and I supervise 6 of them. Some of them were budget oriented. Most of them were animal oriented. So it gives you a good cross-section of the different types of people that you have to work with, and you have to work with a team to accomplish anything. And I have a great knowledge of the city, partially because of geocaching, and I'm sure you're aware of that. I've been down every street in this town. And if it's not a geocache, there's a Munzie down there. And so it really gives you a good knowledge of what they're traveling, what they're seeing. To get out into the green areas here, it's fantastic. And so I think all of those things contribute to give me a unique perspective and a good perspective. And I would be happy to fill that position. Thanks.
Thank you. Michelle?
Thank you. As I said, I've been very active across the community for many years, for the 20 years that I've been here, where I've been able to actually demonstrate my creative abilities, where I actually can think outside the box, where I am able to feature my strong leadership skills across many organizations. I also work in the private sector for a global company where I build strong small to large and medium businesses and the relationships. I've put together multi-million-dollar budgets across those companies. I set up plans from them for 1 to 5 to 10 years. And I work across the table. When you're working with a multi-million-dollar company and you have the COO and the CEO sitting across from you, you have to work with them. You have to think outside that box and be a little more creative. So it's a win-win for everyone involved. I plan to, showcase West Bend as a community to these businesses that I currently work with. And I want them to understand what West Bend has to offer and show them why it's important to possibly move their business, be it a restaurant, a large business, to the city of West Bend. Thank you.
Chris?
In my professional life, I've built kind of a reputation for myself of being a person who gets things done. I'm the guy that you call if you're looking for something done. I like to problem solve, so I think those are 2 really big qualities that would be befitting of a candidate for alderman. I think, having sat with both the current mayor, the past mayor, talked with our city administrator and multiple people, former and past aldermen, about what the challenges are of the role of alderman. It's my understanding, the primary role is to take care of the city pocketbook, right? and that is the largest and first priority of anything. So again, most of the professional experience that I have is in dealing in negotiations and dealing with relationships across businesses. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's always going to be pleasant. Sometimes you do have to push back and stand up for yourself and say, we need a fair deal, not just what's good for you, but it needs to be good for both sides of the equation. I will say that beyond just being a general doer, I'm known for being level-headed. I do like to look at both sides of the issue. I'm an input person, and I like to gather as much information so that I can make informed decisions. I will take ownership over my responsibilities, and that's the other big quality that I bring to the table. If you elect me for this position, you can be well assured that I will own my responsibilities in this role. That means even if at a molecular level, if I have to, go and talk to the engineering department to understand, how things work, I'm willing to do that, and I've demonstrated that I've done that in the past. And that's the other piece that leads into my willingness to learn. I'm certainly an open book. This is going to be sort of a new field for me, so I'm definitely open to exploring and understanding how things work. Thank you.
Thank you. Kyle.
Okay, evidenced by me being the only one to get dinged in their opening remarks, I am a very chatty person, which I think is actually key for this job. I like to talk to people. I like to learn new things. I like to find out something that I maybe hadn't considered. I think that's very important when you take on a job such as this, that you not come in with preconceived notions, maybe a to-do list that is important to you, but maybe not to the other people that you are going to be working with. Having said that, with a background in communications and finance, I do feel that I would be able to hit the ground running, get to know everybody very well, find out what makes them tick, and as others have said, you will be doing a great deal of negotiation and a great deal of learning. I never stop learning. I never want to stop learning. Additionally, I have never held a job that didn't require a couple things, the first being intense deadline pressure, and then also near constant teamwork. I've spent my entire career in these two fields. I did work as the business reporter for the daily news here in town, so if anything, I made a lot of very important contacts both at the city and in the business community that could be an asset for any work that needs to be done. I also have the ability to retool on the fly, as you might know, with somebody going from communications to finance. Right now, I'm a securities trader for a large national bank, so my main job is handling large dollar mutual fund and money market trades for sensitive accounts. So I understand keeping things in-house, and I also understand the way the markets work, when to borrow, when to not borrow, when to invest, when to not to invest. So I do feel that a lot of these are important aspects of the job here that I would bring to the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Tracy.
I am familiar with both the private and the public sectors. I was raised by government employees. My mom retired at 56 as a county employee, and my father retired at 55 as a field rep for AFSCME Local 1, Council 24 out of Madison. And our second oldest son is a correctional officer. I'm well aware of their struggles as government employees and also their pay and benefits. But I'm a business owner that opened a small business out of survival in 2009 because there was nobody hiring. There were no jobs, people were being laid off, we were in a recession. Washington County's unemployment rate was 14% at that time. We had 3 kids in high school and a baby on the way. We had nothing, there were no other options than to knock on doors and start a business. We're grinders, we're workers. My pay is not guaranteed, neither is my retirement. When I take off of work, it's unpaid. Our employees and vendors get paid before we do. Business owners know that about us. If we're going to bring more business and growth to West Bend, we need someone that knows the struggles of a business owner, yet can relate to those of the people who work for us in the public sector. I have a perspective on both.
Thank you. Megan, you're going to get the second question. To borrow from Mark Twain, everybody talks about roads, but nobody does anything about them. Over the past 15 years, I've hosted 15 of these forums, and this has always been the very hottest single topic within the community. If people walk into the chamber, and for some reason I look like a friendly face, and so they tell me about how bad the road is. It is something that is significant. Based on the results of a recent strategic plan and community survey, it has been listed as one of the highest priorities. What ideas would you bring to the table to properly fund this costly priority?
Yep. All right, so roads, we know roads, we know roads. So I've heard from many of my constituents the concerns around roads. The 15-year history, I'm glad you filled me in on that, Craig. I did not know that it had been a 15-year ongoing discussion, but it's one of my platforms. It's something that I know that we need to prioritize. It's something often talked about, and actually the whole Common Council right now really acknowledges that roads are of the utmost importance in West Bend. We saw the survey results that came back. We know that these things need to be addressed. I voted in favor of the 7th Avenue reconstruction that is happening. It was a unanimous vote. We know that people want roads. The project is scheduled to start this summer. The city is also right now working with the county to see how we can share resources around road repair so that we can do things together with timing and save money so that we can be efficient on both fronts for our residents. And I really love that, because anything we can do to combine services and get more efficiency and bang for our buck, that's what I want to do for our taxpayers. Our city also has a wonderful team of engineers that have prioritized a road list. They've shared it out with the aldermen, and we really have a solid plan moving into 2021 and 2022. And again, we will be doing probably a little bit more borrowing when the time comes for more road projects in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Cliff.
Thank you for the question, Craig. Yeah, in going door to door, when you ask what can we do better here in West Bend, the most common response is something to do with the roads. Everybody knows they're something that has to happen. They've got to get them fixed. But how do you do it, and how do you stay within a budget? That's another question. I like the idea of equipment sharing between the city and the county, and maybe staggering your times when you're working on them. Any ways to get any federal or state assistance would be obviously welcome. Explore different solutions to try and getting this done. And again, I know they borrowed money recently, and we may have to do that again. And the engineers are prioritizing the order in which we're going to do it. Everybody wants to get their street moved up the list, and I'm glad they're doing 7th Street, because I travel it often and it needs it. Thank you.
Michelle.
Thank you. Obviously, roads are a huge priority, and also as well, going door to door, that's kind of the first thing that comes to everyone that you talk to is, when is my road going to be fixed? What's going on with 7th Avenue? What's all going on? So, of course, I think we all kind of knew that this was going to be a hot topic tonight. But as far as dealing with roads, my road was under construction for the past 2 summers. So if there's anyone that can complain about a road being done for 2 summers, it's myself. So first and foremost, kind of going back to the budget and kind of asking what had happened, why my road was tore up for 2 complete summers, repaved and then tore back up. Obviously something kind of was missed, and myself being the taxpayer, I had a lot of questions for that, and kind of going back to why I'm here. But yeah, going back to federal and state assistance, I think that's something that we really do need to discuss and to look into, and come up with a great plan. I know, speaking with the mayor, he had mentioned about that the current aldermen, they actually have a plan going forward, and so I look forward to working with them and doing what we can, and keeping that, of course, as the highest priority. Thank you.
Chris.
Yes, thank you. My favorite 4-letter word, road. So yes, having canvassed around the community, that's obviously the top topic of people that I talk to and ask about what your main concerns are. I will say this: going into this election cycle, I was not well informed on where we were at. So having sat in on the last Common Council meeting since December, since I chose to throw my hat in the ring, I've learned an awful lot talking to the folks that are the closest to it. And I will give credit where credit is due. I think it's recognized in the city that there's a gap here, and we need to make some improvements. So that's one thing that's good. The other thing that I'm aware of is that we are going to be getting we're working in partnership with the county for some line of sight and helping with road analysis and planning for the next 30 years. So that's going to put us in a good position to be more proactive about how we address the roads for the foreseeable future, which I see as a good thing. When it comes right down to it, roads are expensive, right? And so, to address this, you have, one of three options, really. You have to find it in the budget, and if you don't find it in the budget, then your options are to raise taxes. You know how I feel about that. Borrow money, which we're doing currently, or find ways to generate more revenue. And one of the ways that we can do that is to try to promote growth of the city so that we can take in more tax revenue to start allocating more funds to helping with that effort. I also agree with looking for any other kinds of programs out there that can help offset some of our internal costs through either state or federal programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Kyle.
Thanks, Craig. So from a finance background, I can say with certainty that the lower our cost as a city can borrow money, the better it is. When interest rates are low, as they are now, we should be borrowing money to work on roads or borrowing money to set aside for the next couple cycles of road repairs. From what I understand, in recent years, our debt load as a city hovered in the $50 million range. Through hard work over the last few years, it's down around the lower 40 million mark. And the strategic plan that we just finished did show that roads are a major priority for the citizens of our city. With the $5.5 million that was borrowed at the most recent Common Council meeting, as I understand, about $4.9 million is slated for road repairs in the next couple of years. Obviously, with interest rates low right now, those projects are going to be cheaper than if we had waited to borrow the money, or cheaper than if we had borrowed the money even 1 year ago. What I think people in town want to see, and which is why I think it's promising, this partnership that we potentially have brewing with the county, is we want to see a plan. We want to see lists. We want to see what's going to happen in 2 years, what's going to happen in 4 years, what's going to happen in 10 years. It's one thing to tell everyone that we have a plan, but it's another thing to clearly communicate that to our residents. When they see a crumbling street, they don't want to be told, yeah, we're going to get to that. They want to be told when we're going to get to that. And I think that's very important moving forward. Thank you.
Tracy.
Well, I would like you to know that in the 6th district, we're concerned about Lenora and Clearview. If we can get those roads addressed real fast, we would appreciate that. Roads for me is a personal thing also. I have 6 vehicles on the roads, and hitting those potholes and all the bumps is, it gets old after a while. So I'm one of those people that want to see the roads addressed as well. I am in favor of working with the county to leverage the resources. We did hear a little bit about the comprehensive plan. I believe it was 2 meetings ago that they discussed that, working with the county. And I'm in favor of that. I think that's a great way to go. And as long as we stick to it without delay and adjust as needed, if they find a road slated for 5 years needs to be done in 3 years, and they just swap, we can pivot a little bit if needed, but stick to the plan.
Thank you. Mark.
Yeah, when I joined the council, one of my top priorities, and it remains, was roads. Because, roads. Like everybody else, I'm tired of hitting potholes and having my teeth rattle out of my head just driving to the store to get a carton of milk. So I took a look initially. I said, oh yeah, I'd like to get on Public Works because they do roads. Well, it turns out in West Bend, Public Works didn't do roads. They created a committee that had basically half of the then members of the Public Works Committee. Then they took this committee and they said, you're responsible to create the priority lists and decide how we address road issues, and also to figure out where that financing comes from. And then they decided that Public Works and Finance should be smaller. So they split the Finance and the Public Works functions up, and it turned out that the Finance Committee had all of the members of the Long Range Transportation Planning Committee, which was the only people around that could do things like set priorities. And the great solid plan that the city had and still has and is prosecuting was developed in 2012, and it hasn't been readdressed since 2012. So for 9 years, we've been working off of old data. We're looking at new data now, and there are some thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to just editorialize just a little bit on roads because it's something that I hear so much. Part of the problem is that this is something that has been happening for the last 40 or 50 years, that the city basically has kicked the can down the road. They didn't have to spend the money, and what has happened now is we have an infrastructure where all of our roads are in pretty bad shape, and it's gotten more and more expensive to fix them. So that's my comment on the subject. Back to the forum here. Cliff, you get the next question. What skill, strength, and knowledge can you bring to the city council that no other candidate has?
Well, that's a good one, Craig. Some of the skills I've learned in the military, 30 years of service, and again, working at many different levels, you have to learn how to work with people, how to communicate, and how to get a job done. And it was very similar working at the zoo. Again, as I said, the zoo is broken into smaller in segments, 10 different ones. And you might be working with 4 to 6 people, trying to make, that particular portion of the zoo function properly. Because not unlike the Common Council, they've all got to work together in order to make something whole and make it work. And so I think everybody has to contribute a little bit, listen to the other people. You got to be a good communicator and a good listener in order to reach some kind of a mutually understood solution to a problem. And of course, no group of 8 people is ever going to agree on everything. Several are going to go one way and the others will go the other. But I think that's what makes the system work. That's the way our system of government is set up. So I think the balance of people and people bringing different skills to the table will help.
Thank you. Michelle.
That's a really great question. So kind of as what I touched on before, working in the private sector, being there for how many years, and putting together those budgets for those companies, working with a small little restaurant, just seeing how they can grow and what I can do to help them out. And then sitting across from a COO and CEO for a multi-million-dollar company. I mean, I think that says a lot about what I can bring to the table. Listening and communicating is extremely important in those type of situations. You want to make sure that you can hear everyone out. You don't want to discredit anyone. You want to make sure that everyone has a voice, and then you kind of come to terms with it and decide what to do to move forward. More importantly, I belong to different organizations along the way, Allied Professionals Group, IREM, working with property management groups along the way, working with the Cheese Board as well. So there's different opportunities that I can bring in to fill that industrial park that we have here as well. Thank you.
Chris?
Well, I can't say that I can speak for the rest of the candidates, but I think, something that I can offer, to the candidacy that may or may not be unique, but is really just the ability to see the big picture and the long-term strategy. So again, I think one of my largest skill sets is the ability to dive really deep into the molecular details of things, but then come back up to more of a holistic level, look at what problems we are trying to solve across the board and how are we going to do it for the long term versus just focusing on that one, area of minutia. That's something that I've developed over the past 13 years in my career. It's something I use daily in my life. It's through analysis, it's through asking people, it's through collaboration, it's through negotiation. But these are all things that that I use as tools in my toolkit to push for a common goal, which is essentially, for solvency and success in business, which means to make money. So that's the skill sets that I would apply to the role as alderman.
Thank you. Kyle.
Thanks, Greg. So anyone who has discussed my campaign with me knows whether I'm going door to door or whether I'm talking with friends and family, I don't do photo ops. I don't go to big flashy events, fundraising dinners, but I do talk to people. I talk some more, I listen some more. I listen to their concerns. I want to know what they think about our government. I'll visit the city's website, I'll call our officials, I will do what needs to be done to get answers if I do not have it. This is how I've always lived my personal life and my professional life, and it is how I would live my public life. Recently, a problem arose in our district that is a good example. There's a zoning issue with a plot of about 33 acres that are potentially going to be developed. I didn't get a solution to the problem, but what I did do is I made some calls. We didn't get the resolution necessarily, but we did get answers. We got a clearer timeline. I scheduled a Zoom call to talk about the issue with any residents of our neighborhood that wanted to voice their concerns. We had a short but very substantive talk. And what I take out of this is I am both interested in finding out what the problems are, finding out who has these problems, and finding out what we can do about it. If the pandemic has shown us one thing, it's that there are a lot more tools in our toolbox than I think we realized we had. From a business standpoint, I've made a lot of jokes about how you can schedule a Zoom call in 5 minutes instead of flying to Los Angeles for a bunch of boring meetings. We can do that stuff here. There are lots of ways to reach out to our constituents, lots of ways to connect with them. We just need to look for them and take advantage of them. Thank you.
Tracy?
My previous answer was probably better suited for this question. Being a business owner, I think I'm the only one that is a business owner that is currently running. That gives a whole new perspective on the job and what people need. The other thing I kind of got going for me is I got that 28-year-old son, and I have the 11-year-old, so I've been parenting a long time. I've had to pivot and shift. The rules of parenting and school expectations have changed over those years. Things that you could do and say when my 28-year-old was in school, you can't do and say anymore. So being able to pivot, I think is good. I have a background in facilities maintenance for the things that I do outside of my heating and cooling business. And then I would just revert back to what I said about the coming from a public sector family and moving into the private sector as an adult myself.
Thank you. Mark?
I would have to say one of the strengths that I bring is troubleshooting, figuring out what a problem is, troubleshooting and problem solving, similar disciplines. I have been doing that since I entered the workforce about 40 years after the candidates forum first appeared or something like that. You start to look at at the whole of an issue as opposed to just the piece that has the squeak. And right now we have a lot of things that are, oh, well, that's a tax. You're raising taxes. No, we're getting resources to solve this problem. And so I tend to look at things holistically, and I've been doing that for, well, more than 40, almost 50 years now. And throughout that period of time, it's amazing how much you can actually get done with the resources you already have. And we have some tremendous resources here. For instance, we have employee retention issues that we need to deal with. We're going to be dealing with that. And if we don't deal with it, we're going to be dealing with how do we train all the new employees. So I think what I'm bringing is sort of a, 40 plus year.
Thank you. Megan.
Can I also get another water? It's
I'll
really
get you
dry
one.
in here. I'm talking too much. Thanks, Jess. Okay, so what I think I really, what I bring to the council that no one else does is asking some tough questions and also my resourcefulness. We need people who aren't afraid to ask some tough questions, analyze data, and apply those findings. In my daily role as a business analyst, I make data-driven decisions. I peel back the layers of what's presented to us and really gain a greater knowledge of the question at hand. I'm also really willing to use all the resources available to me to gain an understanding of a question or an issue. If that means extra meetings with staff that are knowledgeable on a topic, if that means contacting people in the community that may have a better understanding or have dealt with something similar in their business, I will do that and I will make it happen. Thank you.
Okay, Michelle, you're going to get the next question. What is the one thing that can be done at the council level that will have the greatest impact on West Bend?
That is a really great question. I know that just from meeting with the mayor in the past and kind of discussing different things with him, I think there's a lot of things that need to be done. I think that a lot of focus is, more importantly, on the roads, just meeting with the residents, kind of getting out there and knocking on doors. I'm hearing certain things, and it's consistently over and over and over. It's always talking about roads, it's always talking about low taxes, and talking about, safety. And I think that's something that is really important. I think that we need to hear those voices of the citizens. We need to discuss with them what they want, and then come to an agreement as for the board. Thank you.
Chris.
I think the thing I could do at the council that would have the greatest impact is kind of echoing what Megan had said, is really having more voices in the room that are willing to investigate, peel back those layers, ask the tough questions, find out what the straight story is on where we stand with any particular issue. We've got a couple of things coming up, in the community that we're going to have to make some decisions on, and it will have lasting impact on the community and certainly on our tax base. So these are things that we want to, be very sober-minded about as we look at them, and I'm fully prepared to go and knock on doors and make phone calls and investigate, get down to the bottom of what we need to do in order for us to find a solution. And that's really how I approach things. I don't believe that it's the approach that we need to reframe our mindset. I don't believe it's the right approach to be looking at setting the budget first before we understand what we have to take in as revenue. And most businesses, they have an understanding and they project out what they know that they're going to take in for the year, and then they build their budget around what they know they're going to get. So we need to start there, would be my first suggestion. Secondly, let's look at the problems that we have to solve for. Let's do the investigation. Let's come up with a plan. Let's challenge the assumptions that are out there. And then, let's execute against it in a timely fashion and make sure that we're communicating that outward to the community so they have line of sight to what we're up to. Thank you.
Kyle.
Thanks, Craig. I guess the main thing that I feel that I would bring to the board is no ideology. I know a lot of people running for these positions and a lot of people watching want to put every decision that our council makes on a strict ideological line. I don't see it that way. Certainly I see that at the state level, at the national level, but I don't see it as a great way to run our city. Again, I would bring no ideology to this position. I would bring none to my conversations with constituents, and I would bring none to my friendly conversations and my heated arguments with those of us that are on the board. I feel that everyone's voice is vital. I feel whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, an independent, or are in one of those wackier political parties I'm not going to list, integrity is important and empathy is important. Again, I think our job on the Common Council would be to listen to our residents, talk to them, hear what they have to say, and then plan accordingly. What I observe on the Common Council right now, I've actually been very pleased with. The debates are mostly civil. I have not seen a lick of ideology bring a meeting to a halt since I have started going last year. And ideas are freely exchanged among the members of the board. I feel that this system works, and I will tell anyone that will listen to me that I have no agenda here beyond seeing that each constituent remains well served by the government that it's paying or that they are paying for. Thank you.
Tracy? Sure. What is the one thing that can be done at the council level that will have the greatest impact on West Bend?
I believe having the government get out of the way of business would give the most impact. The more business that we have here in West Bend, that takes care of a lot of the tax burden for the residents, and they'll have more money in their pocket to enjoy their lives and spend their money on what they want. I want West Bend to be a destination, and to do that, we need to bring in more business. So that's my answer.
Thank you. Mark?
I'm going to actually throw a unique thing out here. Getting rid of the open meetings law, or having some way for the council to have a problem-solving type discussion. One of the things Wisconsin has with the open records and open meetings laws is nonpartisan offices like school boards and city councils and village boards and so on there's no forum, no place to go and solve a problem, sit around and do that. You have to address it, you have to structure it, you have to tell everybody how you're gonna deal with that issue. And I really think it would help if there was some place you could go and kick a problem around and come up with novel solutions. Beyond that, I think the council's working pretty well. We have spirited discussions. We certainly have disagreements on how, what's important and how to get things done, but eventually we figure what we're going to do and we march down the road. To that end, I think I'll throw back the rest of my time.
Okay. Megan.
Thank you.
Can you tell me the question one more time?
Sure. What is the one thing that can be done at the council level that will have the greatest impact on West Bend?
I think for me, I would think that cities and the businesses working together really makes a more resilient community. I think working together makes sense because both the private and public people, as well as the residents, really want to see the economy grow within their community. I think it's a great example. The Chamber is hosting today an event here, and with so many of their members engaged in what's going on, I think the city needs to keep engaging our current businesses and potential businesses that are interested in West Bend and make sure that they really feel supported by us. I know we work really hard to try to promote the businesses. For example, the Business of the Month series that the communications department does really highlights local businesses, restaurants, boutiques. So I just want to make sure that they're feeling supported and that we're really engaging with them.
Thank you. Cliff?
My understanding is we're talking about the one thing that they can do. I would think we've got a lot of assets within our community. We have a lot of assets that are in our employees. And I think we need to have the right people in the right job, and we should focus our attention on getting the kind of information that they might give us to help us make decisions, whether it be at the university or other private businesses. But if it's only one thing that the council can do to try and improve life, I would say they need to get the right people in the right job and get the right advice on how to proceed. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, Chris, you're going to get the next question. West Bend has not created a TID, or tax incremental district, in over 10 years, and now has created one in 2020, and that's the manufacturing center, and proposing one in 2021, the brewery apartment project. What are your views on using tax incremental financing as a tool to spur economic development in the city of West Bend?
Thank you, and that's a great question. Certainly one of those things that's going to be top of mind over the next few months and years, depending on which way things go. I would just like to say, kind of at a general level, I'm supportive of the idea of wanting to, develop the community by, revitalizing areas that are, not being maximized to their full potential. One beautiful thing that we have, not just one, there's many, but one I'm going to focus on right now is in West Bend is the river that runs through our town. That's beautiful riverfront property, and we have some wonderful old buildings, and I love both of those things. However, one of the things that we need to consider as a city, especially being part of what I would consider to be the greater Milwaukee area. I worked out of Milwaukee almost my entire career and commuted from West Bend, so I consider this being a part of that greater Milwaukee area. But we need to take that into consideration of how we can plan for growth in the long term. So that's being said, like I said, at a general level, I'm supportive of it. In this instance, I have questions that we still have to suss out with regard to how this is going to play out. And I think it can be a useful tool as long as it is responsibly managed and we're asking the right questions up front. If we go in blindly and are not being vigilant about how we leverage that, that can come back to bite us, as we've seen demonstrated in past TIDs that have become distressed, and then we've really got ourselves into a tight spot. So it's one of those things that we need to be very, very, very careful and very discerning about how to move forward with projects like that. Thank you.
Kyle.
Thanks, Craig. All I would probably have to add on this is anytime you have a distressed property, and I think anybody here can agree with me that the brewery property is very distressed. I don't know what the occupancy is in that building, but I do know that pretty much since I was a child, it's been an eyesore. We had billboards painted on it for years that gradually wore off, replaced with other painted billboards that gradually wore off. It just does not look good anymore. I know that there is a lot. I am sympathetic to the emotional attachment that a lot of people in this area have for that building, but I don't see how we as a city would not use the tools that we have at our disposal to potentially see that area flourish. As Chris said, that is prime riverfront property. For years, our river downtown was just kind of there. It wasn't ugly, but it wasn't it wasn't at its full potential. There's been a lot of positive work these last few years on the Riverwalk project. There's a lot of great work that we have moving forward there. And as far as the financing goes, again, I see any tools that we have to make those properties the best they can be for our downtown as a great incentive to move forward. Thank you.
Tracy?
This is fairly new to me, this project, so I know that we've talked about it a little bit, but I'm not versed on it as well as some other areas. I agree that that area is not very attractive. Something needs to be done with it. I support development, but I do have concerns about this project, and I want to look into it more before I publicly say if I'm for it or against it. But it is what they've done so far in the downtown area and the river area. It's looking beautiful. We're on the right track. I think that's it.
Mark?
I favor using TIFs and TIDs to spur development. In the case of the establishment of these, one of the questions that we're required by law to ask is, would the TID, if the TID is not done, would you still have this development? In other words, would the development happen organically? In the case of the brewery replacement, I don't believe so. I think we can honestly look at that and say, if we don't do this TIB, will it happen? And the answer is no. That also tends to expand the size of the downtown area. You're going to connect the north of 33, south of 33 with a pedestrian underpass below 33. You're going to, one of the parts of that project is also some road work on Main, because the scope of a TID can be larger than the boundary of the TID. So we're actually going to be able to carry improvements down into the existing downtown. These are positive things for West Bend, and I'm in favor of it.
Thank you. Megan?
So TIDs are very complicated, so no one feel bad if they're not fully versed on them yet. It definitely takes a little bit to get up to speed on that. And this specific TID that you're talking about, actually there is still more information being discussed. It's coming to council, I believe, April 5th to get discussed more. TIDs can be great when they're utilized properly, and I'm kind of putting an asterisk on that, because we need to really make sure that what we're doing is weighing the give backs that we're giving to a developer, also the length of time a TID is going to run, and what the tax value and how that's going to weigh out. We were able to get Milwaukee Tool to come here using the TID, the manufacturing, like you referred to. It brings jobs. Hopefully it's going to bring more residents that'll move to our wonderful community. But the negative side is TIDs, can become distressed if we're not careful and if we don't give that weight and really deep analysis on if this is the best thing to do for an area. And when that happens, it becomes a distressed TID, and that's not what we want to see. So we can utilize TIDs to really help some blighted areas in the town and revitalize areas, but we need to be really conscious when we're doing it, that we're doing it and really weighing out the benefit to the community. Thanks.
Thank you. Cliff?
I agree that the use of TIFs and TIDs is a good way to try and spur some interest in an area, but the devil is in the details. And there's a number of cases all around the country of mistakes that were made. And so, I mean, that would be one of those things that we want to do these. It's a tool that's in the toolbox, but I have to think that it needs to be used very discreetly. And so we really have to look at the details and have the experts give us some advice. You don't want to be left holding the bag and actually make a big mistake. So, thanks.
Thank you. And Michelle?
Okay, so my feeling on it is, I kind of agree with what Megan and Cliff actually, and Chris actually had to say as well, is, I think they're great. I think there's an opportunity to revitalize an area that has been, as Kyle mentioned, an eyesore for many, many years, driving by it. But I think we do need to be careful. We do need to be cautious. We have to make sure that it's the right thing for not only the community, but also for us as well, being on the board. We have to have that tough conversation and make sure that's the best thing to do for the city of West Bend. As we know, the brewery has been vacant for many years, and we can't say it enough. It's a complete eyesore. But looking at it from a perspective of a positive side, this will bring more business to the city of West Bend. It will bring retail to the lower half, and from what I heard, on the upper half, possibly 172 units. So bringing those residents in, we're very fortunate it's not only on the river, but more importantly, our proximity to Milwaukee and even the Fox Valley. I mean, you can live in the city of West Bend and enjoy the small, quaint community, and then work in downtown or work in the Fox Valley. I don't know. I think for those points, I think it's great, but I do think we do need to be careful and have a conversation.
Thank you. Kyle, you get the next question. What is the most important issue facing your district, and how will you address it if elected?
That's an easy one. I referenced earlier we have the 33 acres or so of undeveloped land at the intersection of Clearview and Daisy. That, from talking with people in our district, is the main thing. I've honestly probably talked to at least a dozen people just on that specific issue. I'd like to say that I've found the answer through those conversations, but it seems pretty evenly split. I've only talked to a small handful that actually are right by the development. And really the issue is, for those that are unfamiliar, there's a plot of land at that intersection I referenced that has for years been zoned for single-family residential. The city has a proposal in the Plan Commission where they would like to instead build two-family homes, so a series of duplexes. I don't have the exact amount with me here, but the people who live right by there are obviously concerned. Two-family homes brings more residents, potentially more vehicles, potentially more traffic. I know one of the reasons that the city, and I believe also the developer, cited for the two-family homes is something with the environmental, just the environmental status of the land. I don't know if it's wetlands. I'm not entirely sure what that's referencing, and that's a good question that I think needs to be explored. But we need to find out how much resistance there is to this project if it moves forward in that district. If most of the people want it, then I can't see any reason why it wouldn't move forward as an exciting development. Again, that land has been slated for development for years, but if there is significant resistance, I do think that we need to have further discussion to see if this is the right move. Thank you.
Tracy?
I would agree that that development is concerning to some of the residents in District 6, but not all of District 6. It really is the very small portion of District 6 that it's really going to affect. Another part of our district that people are concerned about is bullies at the park. We're talking about getting a neighborhood watch together. That doesn't affect everybody. I think ultimately the biggest thing that affects District 6 is our taxes and our roads. So that's my answer.
Thank you. Mark?
Well, this is a good news, bad news thing. The good news is we're going to be doing 7th Avenue. The bad news is 7th Avenue is one of the heaviest traveled north-souths in the city. And there's going to be a fair amount of disruption. I don't know that we know exactly how that's going to affect everything, but we're going to already have construction having a lot of that torn up ahead of things like the Memorial Day parade, if there is one. the Independence Day parade. You know, we typically, the parade routing goes over 7th, and so we're gonna have some challenges to deal with that. Businesses are gonna see patterns of how their customers come to them change. It's so that's sort of a good news, bad news. Good news is they're going to fix 7th Avenue finally. The bad news is we're going to have to live with the impacts of that. Music on Main, you know, your commute, Craig. I mean, you live there, so it's a good news, bad news, and I'm sure we'll live with it. But that's probably the number one issue that's strictly a District 2 issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Megan?
I think for District 8 and really specifically to Villa Park, which is where I live, is going to be the Schuster Drive landfill. That's an issue that the whole city is facing. It's a really costly issue. Right now, I would say we need to make sure that all of our residents really understand where we're kind of at, and we need to keep them informed. We have consultants in AECom is the name of the team working on this. We have the DNR involved. We have our Public Works Department involved. I live in what's kind of called or known as the red zone, the hot zone of where they're really focusing the testing on. So I really understand people's concerns and fears for their families, making sure that everything is safe in their house. So I think we do also have a meeting coming up. We will be hosting a meeting in June for residents. We've had ongoing meetings at different touch points throughout the landfill process. So there is another meeting that will be coming up, but we really need to make sure that that landfill issue gets resolved and that the residents in District 8 feel good about the resolutions that are being presented and done by the city.
Thank you. Cliff?
I would agree that that's the number one issue in District 8 is the dump site, the old dump site that closed in '84, and a couple of plumes that are coming down underneath some of the houses, and granted it's 5 to 25 feet below the houses, and it is being monitored carefully. They're keeping an eye on it. The DNR is involved, State Health Department, but a lot of people are still very concerned. Anytime you find out there's some kind of toxic chemicals leaking down, and you don't know, again, under the ground several feet, but when you get down to Stanford and some of the lower places, they still test the water to make sure that it's okay, because that's the low-lying groundwater. The water in the subdivision is perfectly safe to drink. That's not a problem, but it's still scary having some kind of a green ooze maybe running down under your house, and it has to be tested for. And a lot of the residents are doing that, but everybody needs to be kept abreast of what's going on. Thank you.
Michelle?
Thank you. So by myself going out and kind of talking to residents across my district, I learned a couple of things. If this question would have been a year ago, we would have heard many complaints along Green Valley and Eder and Butternut about the roads, but those have since been changed, and we're now on a great path, so thank you for that. But what I did find out is talking with the residents in Rolling Meadows subdivision, which is actually right down from Lynch on Highway P, is that behind their homes is a light industrial park. Talking to the residents on Eagles Court, I will say that every single home that I spoke to on Eagles Court and across the street had the same complaint, and that is that it's supposed to be deemed light industrial, and it is not. They're hearing constant presses going on at night. They are seeing a bunch of garbage being flown across, and they're looking for some sort of resolution. More importantly to that, there's no path to the Eisenbahn. There's no way for these kids to get even to the city of West Bend to visit their friends. So that's something that I would like to address and talk with the mayor about, more importantly, and see what we can do for them. Also, there's no park in that subdivision. I mean, I know all across West Bend we have some really, really great, amazing parks, but those kids don't even have a park. So that'd be something that we'd like to address as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris?
Like I said, I've been going around the community since really since January, knocking on doors and informing people of my candidacy in the district. And part of that conversation is asking questions of what's keeping you up at night the most in the district. And it breaks down into two words: roads and taxes. The two things that the folks in the district that I hear more than anything else. Particularly with the roads, I think, we've talked about this before, but one of my goals, if elected, would be to, be that touch point in the district and making sure that we're providing, like I said, the line of sight to what's on deck to be done. I'm not sure, how many residents are even aware at this point that 7th Avenue is slated to be under construction. In fact, I'm talking to people last weekend and I informed them and they're like, oh, really? Okay. So, part of that will be communicating and keeping that open line of communication. I want to be that touch point for residents in the district. And again, the taxes thing. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I think, again, you can see distinct differences in ideology when your approach is looking at how much we anticipate to take in as the city in our tax revenue, and then working within those means versus setting a budget and then figuring out how we're going to find money to fill that. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we're coming to the end, and Tracy, you're going to get the very last question. And this is what I call the Goldilocks question. Are taxes in West Bend too high, too low, or just right, and why?
Well, I would say the taxes in West Bend are too high, because I don't think we're getting all the services we could for that money.
Okay, thank you. Mark?
I think our taxes are too low. And I base that on having talked to hundreds of people in my district that one of the first things they ask is, why don't you tax us more and fix the roads? I mean, people realize that taxes fund things. In other words, the roads don't come free. And so they're not objecting to the taxes. They want more effective government. I'm not in favor of bigger government. I'm in favor of more effective government. And roads, yeah, we need to work on roads. And that takes money. And money comes from taxes. Thank you.
Thank you. Megan?
All right, so taxes. All right, even with this being my first year on council, I really fought hard not to see a tax increase on our residents. I was one of only 2 aldermen that voted no on a budget that was going to pass a tax increase onto our residents during a pandemic when the city had just passed an increase the year prior. I want to make sure that we're using what we have effectively and efficiently. Looking at the budget we had this previous year, I knew that we had 4% more in the budget than we had had. That was more growth that the city had seen in the past previous 10 years. Usually we raise the budget 2%, 3% from a year prior. This year we had 4% more to offer without raising taxes. But that wasn't enough to some people, and they wanted to raise it 5% more. So I knew that we had $909,000 due to increased growth in business that we really could have utilized to do more things. So I always am going to try to explore more options for people. I want to dig in, I want to look at stuff, and I want my constituents to know that my first answer to every problem the city has is not going to be, let's just raise taxes.
Thank you. Cliff?
I've been here for 15 years and lived in the same property. My property taxes have gone up approximately 0.5% a year over that time frame, and my property values have kept up with that. And so I would, in my mind, the tax bill is just about where it's supposed to be. And again, I wouldn't reach for the taxing pen as the first solution. But where we are in this point in time, depending on the incoming of increase in revenue, maybe with the end of this pandemic coming hopefully soon, I think we might just about be in the right location. Thanks.
Thank you. Michelle?
talking amongst the constituents and the residents in District 4, that's one of the main things I had is lower taxes. The taxes are too high, and I see that as well. You know, I think we do need to be more creative. I do think we need to think outside that box. I think we need to work within the budget and see what we can do to create more opportunities to at least hold the tax rate. You know, I want to be there for my constituents. I don't want them to think that I'm going to be the person that's going to say, "Yep, I just want to agree to raise taxes," because that's not going to be my voice. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Chris?
So my favorite issue again. Sorry to keep beating a dead horse here, but you know, again, having talked to members of the district, here's my take. I think we are okay right now as far as our tax rate goes. It's a little higher than I would like to see it relative to some other communities that are in the region that we're in Wisconsin. So I'm not as concerned about that as I am about the loose nature in which we're approaching raising taxes in the city. When you're talking about, oh, you know, our taxes are too low, we need to fix roads, well, we'll just raise the tax. That's dangerous thinking. I don't like that. And I really would prefer to take the approach of, let's look at what we've got to work with. And this is how I operate my own household. You know, how much revenue are we taking in? Where are the puts and takes? Where can we reallocate funds to where we need to? And then we would only look at raising taxes as a last resort if there were no other option and all other alternatives had been exhausted. That's the approach I plan to take when doing this. And realistically, you know, district people might think that their taxes are too low, but their eyeballs would pop out of their heads if they knew how much tax increase they'd have to take in order to cover what we need to do for roads right now. And that is not the approach we want to take. Thank you.
Kyle.
Thanks, Craig. The first thing that I would just like to say to that is a third tax increase in short order, I believe, is a total non-starter right now. I believe that in my heart. I believe that in my head. I believe that from chatting with residents in our district, and also just being realistic where the political headwinds are right now. We're just coming out of a pandemic. We've had 2 tax increases, and I don't think people want another one. One thing that I've always loved about West Bend is that the service here is great. Our city employees are able to do more with less every year. Their pay, I don't think, is as much as it would be were they to work in a neighboring community. We have communities near here with far smaller populations that are paying their employees more, and that's because of the taxes that we pay here. So if I had to pick between those 3, which I really don't want to pick any of those choices, but I would say for the most part, our taxes here are just right, considering the political reality of the area, considering how much people make here and the quality of living. Maybe I've never been excited to come into City Hall to pay a tax bill or to pay for another dog license, but I never leave unsatisfied with the service I get. I know a lot of people like to complain about the quality of the Public Works Department when it comes to plowing their streets. I've always been satisfied. If they don't get everything on the first pass within a few hours or within a day, they've come back and my road looks lovely. So again, I would say that we're just right. I've looked at homes both times we were going to buy a house in 3 different communities, and the taxes here were always the lowest, and there's a reason why we purchased a house here 2 times now. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, friends, it's been a long slog here, but we're down to the final closing remarks. And Mark, you're going to get it first.
Okay. I'd like to first thank the West Bend Chamber of Commerce for hosting this, and congratulate them on their 109th year anniversary. It's nice to have something older than I am around to point out, so now the chamber can be it. I'd also like to thank award-winning Community TV of West Bend that's broadcasting this and live streaming it. I look forward to earning your vote if you're in District 2. One thing I'd like to get out there is we don't sit around and figure out how much can we raise taxes. When we sit around and do a budget, we figure out what is it we really need, what's it going to cost. The budget drives the taxes, not the taxes drive the budget. And one of the challenges that we're going to have is we do have a serious issue with employee retention, and we need to address that. It costs way more to train the replacements than it does to keep the existing employees happy and in place. So I think that's going to be one of our challenges this coming year, and I look forward to working on that for the city, along with infrastructure. We need to get a handle on roads, and to that end, I'm working with engineering and public works to see if there are some road projects we can do in-house as we used to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Megan.
All right, I also want to start with some thank yous. Thank you to Jess and John, who are still here from the city working. It's getting to be my bedtime, so I'm sure they're tired after being here all day. Thank you to the West Bend Chamber for putting this on and hosting the forum. Thank you to some conservative leaders in our community, such as Josh Showman and former Mayor Craig Sedonico, who are both endorsing me in this race. They know that I ask tough questions. They know that I make sure every dollar of tax money is spent wisely, and that I'm always going to go the extra mile for West Bend. I hope that many people out there today will kind of join in the growing support for me as District 8 Alderman. I promise to continue to work hard for our district as well as all of West Bend. We have some amazing projects in the works. We have more coming. And of course, there's still things to be done. We have storefronts to fill and roads that need to be worked on. But I promise that my first answer for all of West Bend's issues are not going to be and will never be, let's just raise taxes. So get out on April 6th and vote for Megan Kennedy, District 8. Thank you.
Cliff.
Again, I'd like to thank Craig and the Chamber for providing the opportunity. And Vice President
Button.
I'm back. I'd like to thank Craig and the Chamber for providing this opportunity, the folks that are present here tonight, and the viewers at home. West Bend has many of the same issues facing a lot of communities around, and we've talked about quite a few of them tonight. Roads, taxes, schools, expansion, open storefronts, just to name a few. And the Common Council's job is to fairly handle these issues and arrive at a mutually agreed solution. Any partisan, divisive politics picking winners and losers, one side against the other, is a false option and only serves to divide us. I hope to choose a more balanced approach in working together to arrive at a mutually agreed to path forward and not be a kind of a my way or the highway kind of person. My name is Cliff Van Beek. I'm running for the Alderman in the 8th District. I'd appreciate your vote on April 6th because together we will accomplish great things, and voting has already started, so please vote. Thank you.
Michelle.
First, I'd like to start with a lot of thank yous as well. Thank you to the viewers at home. I hope.
Button.
Oh, I pressed it.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
good. So more importantly, yeah. Okay. Did you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, let's start over. Thank you once again to everyone here. More importantly, thank you to Craig and the West Bend Chamber of Commerce as well, and to you viewers. And I hope you guys are still tuning in at home. So as I mentioned before, I've been very active across the community for many years, demonstrating my creative abilities, my opportunity to think outside the box, where I can feature my strong leadership skills. And that's one thing that I want to bring to District 4. More importantly, working from the private sector for a global company, building strong small to large business relationships, putting together those budgets is something that I love, and something that I also can do for the district as well. But more importantly, I want to be the voice for District 4. I've been out there on the streets, and I've asked them what West Bend needs or what we can do, more importantly, to grow the community, what it might be lacking, and I will continue to do that moving forward. I know that I uphold the position, taking in all considerations and feedback, knowing that I'd be representing District 4, and this is West Bend. I look forward to your vote on April 6th, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Chris.
All right, we'll get through the thank yous first. Thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for putting this on tonight. I know it's run a little long, and I know everybody's tired, and this is a lot of work to put together, so really appreciate you giving us the opportunity to say our piece to the community. For those community members who are still awake and with us, thank you also for hanging in and hearing us out and listening to our pontificating this evening. And for those who didn't, good morning, and welcome to the next day. I got to say, first and foremost, despite all the things that were said tonight, we are very lucky to live in a community that we have here. You've got so many people who take a sincere interest in wanting to make and shape the community for the future, and I think we're very fortunate in that respect. I think apathy is our worst enemy when it comes to local government systems, so just nice to see so many active people out there and taking interest in things. I'm really not a fan of this part of campaigning so far. The biggest reason is because I have to talk about what I would do. And in my nature, I'm really more of a doer. And so I'm going to leave you with the final thought of I hope that you vote for me on April 6th for District 2 Alderman, because when you look at the landscape around you, I mean, it's foolish to think that you can sit around and say, oh, this is great, things are good the way they are. There is always areas to improve, always, always, always. And I've always believed that in your personal life, in your professional life, whatever. So I would just say, as you look around the landscape of political candidates here, I think we want some doers, and I think we can do better. And I hope that you'll use that to weigh in on your judgment making when you're voting on April 6th or tomorrow, because voting has started. So thank you very much, and good night.
Thank you. Kyle?
Okay, well, hopefully this isn't seen as too big a breach of decorum, but in my closing remarks, I actually don't want to talk about myself. I've done that enough tonight and the past few months. I'd actually like to comment on the other candidates up here. To the viewers at home, anybody in the limited audience that we have here, I'd just like you to take a good look at everybody who's joining me up here. This campaign has been very interesting. At times it's been exhilarating, other times and more often it's been exhausting. But one thing I've learned about here is commitment. Everyone that you see up here deserves kudos for the commitment that they've made to their city and to their district. We have different ideas, we maybe have different ideals, but each of us wants to see our city be the best that it can be in our own way. We want it to grow, we want it to prosper, and we want residents here to feel empowered and that their needs are being met. These elections are just about deciding how that should be done. It's not for the faint of heart. I don't think any of us up here are going to forget the first time we saw ourselves called some awful or inaccurate name online somewhere. And I could sit up here and discuss everyone, their flaws, their shortcomings, things that I would maybe do differently than them, but how would that reflect on me and how would that reflect on any of us? Instead, I would just like to thank everyone. We have 4 seats up for election this year, and all 4 are competitive. Think about that for a second. That's legitimately incredible. I don't consider myself young, I don't consider myself old, but with everyone that I've been talking to, nobody can remember the last time that has happened. So in closing, first I would encourage any resident in District 6 or elsewhere in the city to email me or get in touch on social media. I know I'm almost out of time. My email address is kyle.zweig@gmail.com. I'll be happy to provide my phone number as well if you want to talk or nitpick. And finally, I would just close with 3 simple words to everyone sitting up here. Thank you, every one of you. That's more than 3 words, but thank you.
Tracy, you get the very last word.
All right. Thank you again, Craig, and the Chamber of Commerce for the platform tonight. I am looking to be one more conservative and private sector voice at the city level to best represent the way the majority of West Bend residents think, live, conduct our finances at home. I am not a yes man, and I will ask the tough questions. I will show up for the tough meetings and ready to make the tough calls. I want to see our $50 million debt lowered. I want to get out of the way of businesses and let them thrive and prosper. I want our vacant buildings full of life and commerce. I want to keep West Bend safe and our first responders valued and respected. I want our kids educated and given opportunities to play and grow safely away from the screen. West Bend has plenty of room for growth and development. Let's be that mid-sized city that successful businesses want to relocate to and bring with them good-paying jobs, engaged families, and new homes. I want West Bend to be a destination for great jobs, great shopping, delicious food, specialty shops, and skilled trades. I want West Bend to be a place that you can walk on the bike trail with no fears or be able to send your 11-year-old to the park to safely play. I want a city with abundant, involved churches to fill spiritual growth. To call 911 and know that within minutes, help will be there. I want streets that are safe to drive, ride, and walk on. I have 23 years of volunteering for West Bend's youth under my belt. Now I'm ready to serve the community as a whole. I've knocked on hundreds of doors and have given 500 American flags to neighbors with my literature. The talks I've had with neighbors have been insightful, and the people I've met have been delightful. We really do have a great neighborhood. I also believe in term limits and hope to serve my community for just a couple years, inspire a younger, ambitious person to continue in the same direction. If you share in my vision, I'd be honored to have your vote.
Thank you. Folks, this has been a great forum. I want to particularly thank the City of West Bend for this wonderful venue. Jay Shambo, our city administrator, Jess Wild, and John Elke, who won 5 awards just recently. We owe a lot to them for this. I also would like to say that, you know, I cannot tell you how glad I am to see every race contested, which means that our voters have an option as to who they pick. And all I'm going to ask is that the voters actually go out and do that. Because, you know, I have a lot of people that will stop in the chamber and they'll start complaining about something, and I'll say, well, did you vote in the last? Oh, well, no. You know, if you don't vote, you don't have a voice. I think this is a great group of people, and I think all of you, I wish you nothing but the best as we go forward. The winners, if you would like to give me a call, I have a lot of opinions on all the things that we've talked about, and I'd be only too happy to share them with you, but this was not the forum for that. I also want to thank Debbie Santapalo, my timekeeper and my right hand and finance person at the Chamber, who is bared with me through this long forum. And with that, I just reminder to people, please go out on April 6th and vote. With that, I wish you all well and good night.